The arena stretched wide under the artificial sun of Sentinel Prime. Danny Morrison stood in line with 200 other cadets, his heart beating faster than he wanted to admit. Around him, aliens of every shape and size waited for the ceremony to begin. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of crystal that caught the light in strange ways. Danny was one of only 12 humans at the Academy. Humanity had joined the Galactic Coalition just 5 years ago, and most species still saw them as the new kids who didn't belong. The other cadets whispered when humans walked by. Some laughed. Danny had learned to ignore it mostly. Today was different, though. Today was the bonding ceremony, where the war beasts chose their partners. The Vrakthor were legendary. Each one stood as tall as a horse but built like a tank covered in metal scales. They had 6 powerful legs, jaws that could crush steel, and eyes that seemed to see right through you. For 3,000 years, these creatures had fought alongside coalition warriors. To be chosen by one was the highest honor a cadet could receive. The massive gates at the arena's edge began to open. Danny felt his stomach twist. 12 Vrakthor walked out into the sunlight, their scales gleaming like polished armor. The largest one had scars across its face and back, old wounds from battles Danny couldn't imagine. Its eyes glowed amber in the bright light. Commander Velthus, the Academy's headmaster, stepped forward. He was a tall, thin alien with purple skin and 4 arms. His voice boomed across the arena without any microphone. Cadets of Sentinel Prime, the Vrakthor will now choose their bonded partners. Stand firm. Show no fear. Let them see who you truly are. The war beasts spread out, moving through the crowd with surprising grace for their size. One approached a group of Korthan cadets, lizard-like beings with green scales and proud expressions. The beast sniffed at them carefully, then moved on. Another Vrakthor paused at a crystalline Vixari cadet, considering, but ultimately walked away. Danny watched as one by one cadets were chosen. A Vrakthor would sniff a cadet thoroughly, then touch its snout to their chest. When that happened, both cadet and beast would glow faintly as the psychic bond formed. The chosen cadet would place their hand on the beast's head, and the connection was complete. The largest Vrakthor, the scarred veteran, began walking toward the human section. The whispers started immediately. Alien cadets nudged each other and pointed. A Korthan named Velkan laughed loudly. "Watch this. The beast will walk right past the weak ones." The war beast reached the first human cadet, a woman named Jenny Price. It sniffed her carefully, its massive head moving up and down her body. Jenny stood perfectly still, her hands clenched at her sides. After a long moment, the Vrakthor moved on. It repeated this process with each human cadet, spending time with each one but choosing none. Then it reached Danny. The beast lowered its huge head and breathed in deeply. Danny could feel the hot air from its nostrils, could see every detail of its scarred face. The creature's amber eyes locked onto his. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The Vrakthor sniffed him once, then twice. Its eyes widened slightly. Then the impossible happened. The massive war beast lowered its entire body to the ground. Its head touched the arena floor in front of Danny's feet. Every muscle in its powerful frame relaxed in a posture of complete submission. The arena fell silent. Even Commander Velthus looked shocked. But it didn't end there. One by one, the other Vrakthor stopped what they were doing. They turned toward Danny and the scarred veteran. Then they walked over, forming a circle around the human cadet. Each beast lowered its head to the ground in the same submissive bow. All 12 war beasts had chosen the same person. The silence broke. Cadets began shouting in confusion and anger. Velkan pushed forward from the crowd. "This is wrong. This is some kind of human trick." Commander Velthus raised all 4 of his arms, calling for quiet. "Silence. Everyone remain calm." His voice carried authority, but Danny could hear the uncertainty in it. The headmaster approached slowly, staring at the scene in disbelief. The scarred Vrakthor lifted its head slightly and made a deep rumbling sound in its throat. It was looking at Danny, waiting. Danny didn't know what to do. His training had covered bonding with one war beast, not 12. His hand trembled slightly as he reached out toward the scarred veteran. The moment his fingers touched the creature's armored head, warmth flooded through him. It wasn't painful, but it was intense. He felt the beast's mind brush against his own, felt its strength, its loyalty, its fierce protective instinct. The connection was immediate and absolute. The other 11 Vrakthor rumbled in approval, still bowing. Through the new link in his mind, Danny understood something that made his blood run cold. These creatures weren't just accepting him as a partner. They were recognizing him as their pack alpha, their leader. Commander Velthus stepped closer. Cadet Morrison stepped back from the war beasts immediately. Danny tried to move, but the scarred Vrakthor shifted, placing its body between Danny and the commander. It wasn't aggressive, but the message was clear. The beast was protecting him. "Commander, I don't know what's happening," Danny said, his voice shakier than he wanted. "I didn't do anything to cause this." An older alien woman pushed through the crowd. She wore the white robes of a xenobiologist and carried a portable scanner. "Commander Velthus, let me examine the situation before we take any action." The commander nodded stiffly. "Dr. Kira Vox, please proceed, but carefully." Dr. Vox approached with slow, measured steps. The Vrakthor watched her but didn't move to stop her. She ran her scanner over Danny, then over the scarred veteran, her expression growing more surprised with each reading. "Fascinating," she whispered. "Absolutely fascinating." "Explain, Doctor," Velthus demanded. Dr. Vox looked up at the crowd of confused and angry cadets. "The Vrakthor are responding to something in this human's biological markers. Pheromones, body language, psychological profile. They're reading him as a pack alpha." "That's impossible," Velkin shouted. "Humans are weak. They have no place commanding war beasts." The scarred Vrakthor's rumble turned into a low growl at Velkin's tone. The Korthan cadet stepped back quickly. Dr. Vox continued. "Actually, it makes perfect sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Most coalition species evolved from prey animals or herd creatures. We developed intelligence to survive. But humans evolved from apex predators, from pack hunters. The Vrakthor recognized this instinctively." Danny's mind was racing. He grew up in a rough part of Earth, protecting his younger siblings from gang members and bullies. He'd learned to fight, to lead, to take responsibility for others weaker than himself. Could these alien war beasts really sense all of that? Through the bond, he felt the scarred veteran's confirmation. "Yes," the beast seemed to say without words. "You are pack. You are alpha, we follow." Commander Velthus looked deeply uncomfortable. "This situation is unprecedented. I must contact the Coalition Council immediately. Dr. Vox, keep monitoring the situation. Cadet Morrison, you and the Vrakthor will remain in the arena under guard until we determine how to proceed." "What about the bonding ceremony?" another instructor asked. "We still have cadets who need war beasts." The Vrakthor rumbled in unison. Through his new connection, Danny understood their message clearly. They had chosen their alpha. They would accept no one else. As guards surrounded the arena and the other cadets were led away, Danny sat down on the warm ground. The 12 Vrakthor formed a protective circle around him. The scarred veteran, who Danny somehow knew was named Krasnor, laid its massive head in his lap. Danny Morrison had come to the ceremony hoping to be chosen by one war beast. Instead, he'd somehow become the pack alpha of 12, and he had no idea what came next. But as he felt the loyalty and fierce devotion flowing through the bond, one thing became clear. His life had just changed forever, and the galaxy was about to change with it. 3 hours had passed since the bonding ceremony ended in chaos. Danny sat in a secure holding room with 12 war beasts surrounding him like armored guardians. Krasnor, the scarred veteran, hadn't moved from his side. The other Vrakthor took turns pacing the room's perimeter, their claws clicking softly on the metal floor. Through the transparent wall, Danny could see dozens of officials gathering. They wore the uniforms of different coalition species, each one looking more worried than the last. Some pointed at him and argued. Others stared at the Vrakthor with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. The door slid open. Commander Velthus entered, followed by Dr. Kira Vox and 3 other officials Danny didn't recognize. One was a Korthan general with elaborate armor and cold eyes. Another appeared to be some kind of insectoid creature that clicked and chirped when it moved. The third was covered in flowing robes that seemed to shift colors. "Cadet Morrison," Velthus began, his forearms clasped behind his back. "We need answers. What did you do to influence the Vrakthor?" "Nothing, sir," Danny replied honestly. "I just stood there like everyone else." The Korthan general, whose nameplate read General Throkvan, stepped forward aggressively. Immediately, all 12 Vrakthor were on their feet, growling. The general froze. "You see?" Throkvan said, not taking his eyes off the war beasts. "The human has somehow gained control over them. This is a security threat to the entire coalition." Dr. Vox moved between them, her scanner still in hand. "General, please step back." You're triggering their protective response. She looked at Danny. Can you calm them? Danny didn't know if he could, but he tried. He thought about peace, about safety, about standing down. Through the bond, he felt his intentions flow to the pack. The Vrakthor stopped growling but remained alert, watching the general. Interesting, Dr. Vox murmured, making notes on her device. The bond is already strong enough for basic communication. This typically takes weeks to develop. The robed figure spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Dr. Vox, you mentioned evolutionary factors during the ceremony. Please elaborate for the council. Dr. Vox nodded and activated a holographic display. Images of different species appeared, showing their evolutionary trees. Most coalition species evolved from prey animals. The Korthan descended from herd reptiles, the Vexari from colony organisms, the Gorath from burrowing creatures that hid from predators. Even my own species, the Telvar, evolved from tree dwellers that survived by avoiding danger. She pulled up another image, this one showing human evolution. Humans are different. They evolved from persistence hunters who chased prey for hours until it collapsed from exhaustion. Before they developed advanced tools, they were already apex predators. Their eyes face forward for tracking prey. Their bodies are built for endurance. Their social structures developed around pack hunting. Another image appeared, showing a Vrakthor's evolutionary tree. The Vrakthor evolved similarly, as pack hunters on their homeworld. They have a strict hierarchy based on strength, intelligence, and protective instinct. When they were domesticated 3,000 years ago, they transferred this loyalty to other species, but the instinct to seek a pack alpha never disappeared. Danny watched the hologram show two evolutionary paths converging. So they see me as one of them? In a way, yes, Dr. Vox said. But there's more to it than just species evolution. I scanned your biological markers and psychological profile. You have elevated levels of protective hormones, markers of past physical conflict, and a neural pattern consistent with leadership under stress. Where did you grow up, Cadet? Danny shifted uncomfortably. Detroit. The Lower East Side. It wasn't safe. Tell us more, the robed figure encouraged. Danny took a breath. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My parents worked double shifts to keep food on the table. I had to make sure my siblings got to school safely, got home safely. There were gangs, drugs, violence. I learned to fight when I was 10. By 13, I was known in the neighborhood as someone you didn't mess with if you wanted to avoid trouble. Krasnor rumbled softly and pushed his head against Danny's hand. Through the bond, Danny felt approval, understanding. The war beast had also fought to protect those weaker than himself. I joined the coalition military to get away from all that, Danny continued. To make something better of myself. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to keep people safe. Dr. Vox smiled. And that, Cadet Morrison, is exactly why the Vrakthor chose you. You're not just a predator. You're a protector. You fight for the pack, not for yourself. That's what a true pack alpha does. General Throckvon wasn't convinced. This is all very interesting, Doctor. But it doesn't change the fact that we have a human controlling 12 of the Coalition's most powerful weapons. What happens when Earth decides to use this against us? Earth doesn't even know this happened yet, Velthos pointed out. And I've reviewed Morrison's record. He's loyal to the Coalition. For now, Throckvon countered. But humans are unpredictable. They've been in the Coalition for only 5 years. We know nothing about them. The insectoid official clicked rapidly. A translator device spoke in a flat voice. The question is not about trust. The question is about protocol. The bonding ceremony has never resulted in one cadet being chosen by multiple Vrakthor. What do we do with Morrison? Separate them, Throckvon said immediately. Give the war beast to different cadets. Break this dangerous connection. Every Vrakthor in the room snarled. The sound was terrifying, like thunder mixed with grinding metal. Krasnor stood and positioned himself directly in front of Danny, his body a living shield. The other beasts formed a tight circle, their amber eyes fixed on the general. That's not possible, Dr. Vox said quickly, her voice urgent. The bond is already formed. Trying to break it could kill both the human and the Vrakthor. They've accepted him as their pack alpha. That's not something you can undo. The robed figure seemed to shimmer. Then we must decide if Cadet Morrison keeps all 12 war beasts or none at all. None? Danny felt panic rise in his chest. Through the bond, he felt the Vrakthor's distress mirror his own. They had chosen him. He had accepted them. The connection felt as natural as breathing now. Veltas raised his hands. Before we make any decisions, I propose a test. The war games begin in 2 weeks. Let Morrison and his pack participate. If they prove themselves capable, we allow the bond to continue. If they fail or show any sign of being a threat, we revisit this discussion. General Thruckvan's eyes narrowed. The war games are brutal. Most teams have 1 or 2 Vrakthor. He would have 12. That's an unfair advantage. Or a massive disadvantage, Dr. Vox countered. Coordinating 12 war beasts requires incredible skill. Most handlers can barely manage one. If Morrison fails, the problem solves itself. The Vrakthor will recognize his weakness and break the bond naturally. The officials looked at each other. The insectoid clicked thoughtfully. The robed figure seemed to consider. Finally, Thruckvan nodded slowly. Very well. But I want observers watching him at all times. And if there's any sign of treachery, we end this immediately. Velthas turned to Danny. Cadet Morrison, you have 2 weeks to prepare for the war games. Your team will include yourself and 3 other human cadets. You'll face scenarios designed to push cadets to their absolute limits. Do you accept these terms? Danny looked at Krasnor. The war beast's amber eyes held his gaze. Through the bond, he felt the beast's confidence, its unwavering loyalty. The other Vrakthor rumbled their agreement. I accept, sir, Danny said. Good, Veltas replied. You're dismissed to the training grounds. Dr. Vox will provide you with information on Vrakthor pack dynamics. I suggest you study it carefully. Your life may depend on it. As the officials left, Jenny Price entered the room. She was one of the other human cadets, tall and athletic with short black hair and sharp eyes. Behind her came Luke Hayes and Marcus Webb, the 2 other humans Danny knew from training. Jenny looked at the 12 Vrakthor surrounding Danny and whistled low. So the rumors are true. You really did become the pack alpha of every war beast in the ceremony. I didn't mean to, Danny said. Doesn't matter what you meant, Luke said. He was shorter than Danny, but built like a boxer, with scars on his knuckles from hard living. What matters is what happens next. We're your team for the war games. Marcus adjusted his glasses nervously. He was thin and looked more like a scholar than a soldier. But Danny knew he had one of the highest tactical scores in the academy. I've been reading about the war games. The failure rate is 40%. People get hurt, sometimes killed, even with safety protocols. And now everyone's going to be watching us, Jenny added. The aliens expect us to fail. They want us to fail. We're humans bonding with Vrakthor. That scares them. Danny stood up and Krasnor moved with him like a shadow. Then we don't fail. We show them that humans and Vrakthor together are stronger than anyone expects. Jenny grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. So Pack Alpha, what's the plan? Danny looked at his team, then at the 12 war beasts watching him with loyal amber eyes. He didn't have all the answers. He wasn't sure he was ready for this responsibility, but through the bond he felt the Vrakthor's certainty. They had chosen him for a reason. Ugh. The transport ship dropped them on the surface of Tarik 7 just before dawn. Danny stepped off the ramp with his team, and immediately the 12 Vrakthor spread out, sniffing the air and checking for threats. The moon's surface was harsh, covered in red rocks and deep canyons that looked like knife wounds in the earth. 50 teams of cadets had been dropped at different locations across Tarik 7. They had 1 month to complete various objectives: rescue missions, defend positions, search and destroy targets, all while surviving the moon's hostile environment. Teams earned points for completing objectives and lost points for casualties or failures. Jenny checked her datapad. First objective is 12 miles north. We need to locate and extract a downed pilot from a crash site before enemy forces arrive. Enemy forces? Luke asked, checking his weapon. Simulated hostiles, Marcus explained, pushing his glasses up. Drones programmed to act like real enemies. They use stun weapons mostly, but the environment hazards are real. Fall in a canyon, you actually fall. Get caught in a sandstorm, you actually suffer. Danny felt Krasnor press against his leg. Through the bond, the war beast was alert but calm. The other Vrakthor waited for direction, their 6 legs steady on the rocky ground. Let's move, Danny said. Stay tight formation. They moved north, but almost immediately Danny realized they had a problem. The Vrakthor weren't coordinating. 3 ranged ahead too far, 4 lagged behind. The others moved in different directions, investigating every interesting scent or sound. It was chaos. Danny, we need them together, Jenny said, watching a Vrakthor climb up a cliff face for no apparent reason. I'm trying, Danny muttered. Through the bond, he tried to project commands, But the war beasts responded inconsistently. Some obeyed immediately. Others seemed confused or distracted. It took them 4 hours to reach the crash site, twice as long as it should have. By the time they arrived, another team had already extracted the pilot. A group of Gorath cadets, each one 8 feet tall and built like a wall of muscle, stood by the wreckage with their 2 Vrakthor. The Gorath team leader laughed when he saw Danny. The human pack alpha arrives too late. Perhaps you should stick to what your species does best. Talking. Jenny's hand moved toward her weapon, but Danny stopped her. Let it go. We'll do better next time. As they left the crash site, Luke spoke quietly. We can't keep moving like this. The pack is scattered. They're not listening to you. They're listening, Danny said, frustration clear in his voice. They're just not understanding what I want. That night, they camped in a shallow cave. Danny sat apart from the others, staring at the 12 Vrakthor. They had settled around the camp in a loose circle, some sleeping, others watching the darkness beyond. Krasnor lay beside Danny, his amber eyes reflecting the small heating unit they'd set up. Marcus approached and sat down. You know, I've been reading Dr. Vox's notes on pack dynamics. And? Danny asked. You're treating them like soldiers, giving orders, expecting obedience. But that's not how pack alphas work in nature. Marcus pulled up a hologram from his datapad, showing wild Vrakthor hunting on their homeworld. The alpha doesn't command. The alpha leads by example. The pack follows because the alpha proves themselves through action. Danny watched the hologram. The alpha Vrakthor moved first, taking the most dangerous position. The pack followed naturally, each beast knowing its role without being told. When the alpha changed direction, the pack flowed with the movement like water. I've been doing this wrong, Danny realized. Not wrong, Marcus corrected. Just not the way they understand. These creatures evolved to follow strength and protective instinct. Show them what you want by doing it yourself. Over the next few days, Danny changed his approach. Instead of projecting commands through the bond, he moved first and let the Vrakthor follow. When they approached dangerous areas, Danny took point, showing the pack he wouldn't send them anywhere he wouldn't go himself. When they made camp, Danny ate last and slept in the most exposed position, the traditional role of a pack alpha. Slowly, the Vrakthor began to synchronize. They watched Danny's movements and anticipated his intentions. When he turned left, they moved left. When he stopped, they formed a protective perimeter without being told. The bond between them grew stronger, more intuitive. By the end of the first week, they completed 3 objectives successfully, earning decent points. But they were still in the middle of the rankings, behind teams with fewer war beasts but better coordination. Then came the canyon ambush. They were moving through a narrow passage between 2 cliff walls when Krasnor suddenly snarled a warning. Danny felt it through the bond a second before the attack came. A Korthan team led by Velkan appeared on the cliffs above, along with 2 other teams Danny didn't recognize. 8 Vrakthor total plus 15 cadets. Surrender, humans, Velkan called down. You're outnumbered. This wasn't part of any official objective. This was personal. The Korthan had been angry since the bonding ceremony, and now he saw a chance to humiliate Danny publicly. We don't want trouble, Danny shouted back. Let us pass. Make us, Velkan replied. Stunbolts started raining down from above. Danny's team scattered, looking for cover behind rocks. The Vrakthor howled and moved in different directions, confused by the sudden chaos. 3 of them charged the cliff wall, trying to climb up to the attackers. Others circled protectively around Danny but blocked each other in the narrow space. A stun bolt caught Luke in the shoulder. He went down hard. Marcus dragged him behind a boulder while Jenny returned fire, but they were pinned down. Danny felt panic rising. His pack was breaking apart. They were going to lose and people were going to get hurt. Through the bond, he felt the Vrakthor's confusion and fear. They wanted to protect him, but they didn't know how. Then Jenny's voice cut through the chaos. Danny, stop thinking like a soldier. You're not commanding troops. You're leading a pack. Something clicked in Danny's mind. He stopped trying to control the situation and instead let his instincts take over. He stood up from cover, fully exposed to the stun bolts, and howled. It wasn't a human sound. It was something primal, something that came from deep in his chest. The Vrakthor froze. Then as one, they turned to face him. Through the bond, Danny didn't send commands. He sent feelings, confidence, aggression, protective fury. He showed them the image of their enemies above, showed them the threat to the pack. Krasnor understood first. The scarred veteran moved to Danny's side and added his own howl to the call. The other Vrakthor joined in, and the canyon echoed with the sound of a pack united. Danny charged forward, not away from danger, but toward it. He ran straight at the cliff wall. The Vrakthor surged with him, their movements suddenly fluid and coordinated. 3 of them formed a living platform, backs pressed together. Danny leaped onto them, then jumped higher as they boosted him up. He caught a handhold on the cliff face and started climbing. The Vrakthor followed, using their 6 legs to climb with impossible speed. They moved like a wave, covering each other, creating openings, working as one organism with 12 bodies. Velkan's expression changed from triumph to shock as Danny and his pack reached the top of the cliff in seconds. The Korthan tried to retreat, but the Vrakthor cut off escape routes. Danny's pack didn't attack aggressively. They simply surrounded the 3 enemy teams, growling low and threatening. "Stand down," Danny said, breathing hard. "Now." Velkan looked at his own war beasts. They were backing away from Danny's pack, recognizing superior numbers and coordination. The Korthan's face twisted with rage, but he had no choice. "Stand down," he ordered his team bitterly. Danny called off his pack with a thought. The Vrakthor immediately stopped threatening and moved back into formation around him. As Danny's team left the canyon, he felt the bond pulse with satisfaction. They had won without seriously hurting anyone. They had protected the pack. That night, footage of the canyon incident spread through the Academy networks. Command reviewed it and ruled that Velkan's ambush violated competition ethics. His team was penalized points. Meanwhile, observers noted Danny's pack coordination with interest. "You did it," Marcus said, reviewing the footage. "That moment when you howled and the pack just moved. That was real pack behavior." "It felt right," Danny admitted. "Like something I'd always known but never put into words." Jenny sat down beside him. "The other teams are going to be more careful now. They've seen what we can do." "Good," Luke said, his shoulder still sore from the stun bolt. "Let them be scared. We're just getting started." Over the next 2 weeks, Danny's pack became something the war games had never seen. They moved like one creature, anticipating each other's movements, covering weaknesses, amplifying strengths. They completed objectives that were meant for teams with more cadets because their coordination made up the difference. In the 3rd week, everything changed. Danny's team received an emergency broadcast on their communications device. A team of cadets was trapped in a simulation that had malfunctioned. Automated defense drones had activated with lethal force instead of stun weapons. 17 cadets from 4 different species were pinned down in a collapsed building, and they had casualties. The broadcast of the rescue spread across the coalition networks within hours. Danny's team had saved 17 cadets from certain death, and the footage showed the Vrakthor pack moving with a coordination that military analysts called unprecedented. Suddenly, humans bonding with warbeasts wasn't seen as a curiosity. It was seen as a potential shift in power. Not everyone was happy about it. High Commander Zethron of the Korthan Empire watched the footage in his private quarters aboard his flagship. His clawed hands gripped the armrests of his chair hard enough to leave marks. For 3,000 years, the Korthan had been the dominant military force in the coalition, largely because they had bred and trained more Vrakthor than any other species. Now humans, these newcomers who had been in the coalition for barely 5 years, were showing abilities with warbeasts that exceeded anything the Korthan had achieved. "This cannot stand," Zethron muttered. His second-in-command, a younger Korthan named Dreshka, nodded. "The human has become a symbol. If he succeeds in the war games, other humans will attempt to bond with Vrakthor. Within a generation, they could command the largest warbeast force in the coalition. And then they would control us," Zethron finished the thought. "No, this ends now. How, Commander?" "The war games are watched by the entire coalition. We cannot simply eliminate the human." Zethron's eyes glinted. "We don't need to eliminate him. We just need to ensure he fails catastrophically. Make it look like an accident. Show the coalition that humans are too unstable, too dangerous to bond with Vrakthor." He pulled up the schedule for the war games' final event. In 3 days, all remaining teams would participate in a shipboarding simulation. They would assault a decommissioned cruiser while defending against automated systems and hostile forces. It was the most dangerous event in the games, designed to push cadets to their absolute limits. "This simulation will malfunction," Zethron said. "Safety protocols will fail. Weapons will switch from stun to lethal. Environmental shields will drop. The reactor will begin a real meltdown. In the chaos, the human and his pack will be overwhelmed. By the time anyone realizes it was sabotage, it will be too late. And the other cadets in the simulation? Dreshka asked. Zetharon's expression was cold. Acceptable casualties. We'll blame it on human incompetence. Say that Morrison's presence destabilized the war beasts, causing them to damage critical systems. The Coalition will believe it because they want to believe it. Humans will be barred from bonding with Vrakthor, and the natural order will be restored. 3 days later, Danny stood in the briefing room with his team and the other 40 remaining teams. Commander Veltas outlined the final event. They would board a decommissioned Coalition cruiser called the Sentinel's Pride. The ship's automated defense systems would be active, and drone forces would defend key locations. Teams earned points for capturing objectives and lost points for casualties. This simulation is as close to real combat as you will experience during training, Veltas warned. The safety protocols are extensive, but injuries can still occur. Stay alert, trust your teams, and prove what you've learned. Jenny leaned close to Danny. Something feels wrong about this. What do you mean? Danny asked. I don't know. Just a feeling. She looked at the holographic display of the ship. This is supposed to be the final test, right? The thing that proves we're ready to be real officers, but it seems too easy after everything we've been through. Marcus adjusted his glasses nervously. The ship is massive. 12 decks, hundreds of rooms. We could get separated easily. Then we stay together, Danny said. We move as a pack, like always. Luke checked his weapon for the 3rd time. I just hope those safety protocols actually work. I've heard stories about past war games where cadets died because something went wrong. Krasnor rumbled softly, pressing against Danny's leg. Through the bond, Danny felt the war beast's unease. Something was making the Vrakthor nervous, though Danny couldn't identify what. The teams boarded transport ships and flew to the Sentinel's Pride, which floated in orbit around Tarex 7. The decommissioned cruiser was huge, its hull scarred from decades of service. As Danny's team docked and entered through an airlock, red emergency lighting cast everything in an ominous glow. All teams begin, Velthas' voice announced over the communication system. The teams spread out through the ship, each one pursuing different objectives. Danny's team headed for the engineering deck, where their assigned objective was to secure the main reactor room. The Vrakthor moved ahead, their senses alert for any threats. For the first hour, everything seemed normal. They encountered defense drones that fired stun bolts, easily handled by the pack's coordination. They bypassed security doors and navigated through dark corridors. Marcus led them through the ship's layout while Luke watched their backs. Then things started going wrong. The first sign was when a defense drone's stun bolt hit Jenny in the arm, and instead of feeling a brief shock, she collapsed screaming. Danny rushed to her side and saw the burn mark on her suit. That wasn't a stun bolt. It was real energy fire. Command, we have a problem. Danny spoke into his communicator. Weapons are live. Repeat, weapons are live. Static answered him. The communication system was down. Marcus pulled out his datapad, trying to access the ship's network. His face went pale. Danny, the safety protocols are offline. All of them. Environmental shields, weapon limiters, emergency overrides, everything. Through the bond, Krasnor sent a surge of alarm. The war beast had found something. Danny ran to where the Vrakthor stood, staring at a control panel. The display showed sabotage markers, hidden code that had been inserted into the ship's systems. This wasn't an accident, Danny said, his blood running cold. Someone did this intentionally. An alarm started blaring throughout the ship. Marcus checked his datapad again. The reactor. It's going critical. We have 20 minutes before it reaches meltdown. Can we stop it? Jenny asked, grimacing through the pain of her burn. Maybe if we can reach the reactor core and manually reset the coolant system. But that's on the other side of the ship, through who knows how many defense systems that are now trying to kill us. Luke helped Jenny to her feet. We need to evacuate. Get off this ship and let command handle it. The airlocks are sealed, Marcus said. We're trapped. Everyone on this ship is trapped. Danny felt the weight of the situation crash down on him. Dozens of cadets were scattered throughout the ship, not knowing their weapons were live, not knowing the reactor was about to explode. They had 20 minutes to warn everyone and somehow stop the meltdown or they would all die. Through the bond, he felt his pack's fear, but also their absolute trust in him. They were waiting for him to lead them, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. Marcus, can you broadcast a warning through the ship's internal speakers? Danny asked. Maybe if I can reach a communication hub. Do it. Warn everyone to evacuate or find shelter. Jenny, Luke, go with him. Get as many cadets to safety as you can. What about you? Jenny demanded. The Vrakthor and I are going to the reactor core. We're going to stop this meltdown. That's suicide, Luke said bluntly. The radiation levels near the core will be lethal even with protective gear. Then we move fast. Danny looked at his team, his friends. I'm not ordering you to do this, but I can't just leave those cadets to die, even if it means risking everything. Jenny grabbed his shoulder, her eyes fierce despite her injury. You're the pack alpha, Danny. We follow your lead. But you better survive this or I'm going to be really mad at your funeral. They split up. Marcus, Jenny, and Luke headed toward the communication hub while Danny and the 12 Vrakthor ran toward engineering. The ship seemed to be fighting them every step of the way. Doors malfunctioned and sealed shut. Defense drones appeared in swarms. Environmental systems failed, causing some sections to lose gravity or fill with toxic gas. But Danny and his pack moved through it all. The Vrakthor's armor protected them from weapons fire. Their strength allowed them to force open jammed doors. Their senses warned them of traps before they sprung, and through the bond they moved as one, each beast knowing exactly what the others would do. They reached the engineering deck with 12 minutes left. The radiation alarms were screaming, and Danny's suit sensors showed dangerous levels in the air. Through a reinforced window, he could see the reactor core glowing an angry red color, pulsing with barely contained energy. Marcus's voice crackled over Danny's communicator. I got through. Everyone's been warned. Most teams are heading to shielded sections, but some are trapped in sections with no protection. Danny, you need to shut down that reactor now. Working on it, Danny replied, studying the access tunnel that led to the core chamber. It was narrow, barely wide enough for a human. The Vrakthor couldn't fit through it. Krasnor realized what Danny was thinking and growled in protest. Through the bond, Danny felt the war beast's refusal to let him go in alone. I have to, Danny said aloud, knowing Krasnor would understand through the bond. You can't fit, but I'll need your help to survive the radiation. He didn't know if it was possible, but Danny pushed the idea through the bond. The Vrakthor had thick armor and naturally high radiation. Danny woke up 3 days later in a medical facility on Sentinel Prime. His body felt like it had been taken apart and put back together. Every muscle ached and his skin tingled from the radiation treatment. But he was alive. Krasnor lay on the floor beside his bed, the massive war beast refusing to leave despite the medical staff's protests. When Danny's eyes opened, Krasnor's head lifted immediately and a deep rumble of relief vibrated through the room. Through the bond, Danny felt the war beast's joy mixed with lingering worry. Hey, big guy, Danny whispered, his throat dry. We made it. The door opened and Jenny, Luke, and Marcus rushed in. Jenny had her arm in a healing wrap, but she was grinning. About time you woke up. You've been unconscious for 72 hours. What happened? Danny asked. The other cadets? Everyone survived, Marcus said, pushing his glasses up. Thanks to you stopping the reactor. Some injuries, but no deaths. Command is calling it a miracle. It wasn't a miracle, Luke added, his expression dark. It was sabotage. They found evidence throughout the ship's systems. Someone deliberately tried to kill everyone on board. Danny struggled to sit up. Krasnor moved closer, providing support. Who? High Commander Zethron of the Korthan Empire, Jenny said. He confessed after the investigation cornered him. He couldn't stand the idea of humans bonding with Vrakthor, thought it would threaten Korthan dominance, so he arranged the malfunction, planning to blame it on you. Where is he now? Danny asked. In custody, Marcus replied. The Coalition Council arrested him and several of his conspirators, but the damage to Coalition unity is severe. Several species are demanding humans be expelled from the military academy. Others are defending you. It's become a huge political mess. Commander Velthas entered the room, his forearms folded behind his back. Cadet Morrison, I'm glad to see you awake. We need to discuss your future. Danny's heart sank. Are they expelling me? On the contrary, Velthas said. The Coalition Council has decided to promote you to officer rank immediately, bypassing the normal graduation requirements. Your actions saved dozens of lives and exposed a serious conspiracy. However, the situation remains complicated. He activated a holographic display showing the Coalition Council chambers. Various species representatives were arguing heatedly. Some species want all humans barred from bonding with Vrakthor. They see it as a threat just as Zethron did. Others argue that your bond with the war beast is exactly what the Coalition needs. Proof that different species can work together in ways previously unimaginable. What's going to happen? Danny asked. Velthas looked at him seriously. That depends on the Vrakthor themselves. As if on cue, Dr. Kira Vox entered the room, accompanied by several Vrakthor handlers from different species. She approached Danny's bed with her usual scientific curiosity. Cadet Morrison, during your exposure to lethal radiation levels, something extraordinary happened. The Vrakthor shared their natural resistance with you through the psychic bond, sustaining your life long enough for you to complete your task. This has never been documented before. She pulled up medical scans showing Danny's body. The bond between you and your pack is deeper than any human Vrakthor connection on record. It's also deeper than most bonds between Vrakthor and other species. We asked the war beast through neural interface what they want. Dr. Vox activated another display. It showed a recording of Krasnor connected to a translation device, images and concepts flowing from the war beast's mind into words that other species could understand. The message was simple and absolute. We choose the human. We choose all humans who prove worthy. We will bond with no others if humans are forbidden. The old ways must change. One of the handlers, a Gorath warrior named Krethor, stepped forward. His species had worked with Vrakthor for centuries. The war beasts have spoken. They recognize in humans something we lack. The instinct of the pack hunter, the protective fury of the alpha. We can train with Vrakthor, but humans bond with them. It's a fundamental difference, Velthas nodded slowly. The Coalition Council has made a decision. A new program will be established. The War Beast Integration Corps. It will train humans and any other compatible species specifically for Vrakthor bonding. Officer Morrison, you will lead this program. Danny's eyes widened. Me? Commander, I'm barely 20 years old. I just finished cadet training. You stopped a reactor meltdown while suffering lethal radiation exposure, Velthas countered. You saved 17 cadets in an unauthorized rescue mission. You exposed a conspiracy that threatened Coalition security. And most importantly, you bonded with 12 Vrakthor who refused to work with anyone else. If you're not qualified to lead this program, nobody is. Jenny grinned. Congratulations, Pack Alpha. You're moving up in the world. I'll need help, Danny said, looking at his team. I can't do this alone. You won't have to, Marcus replied. We're with you. All the way. Luke nodded. Besides, someone needs to keep you from getting yourself killed with all your heroic nonsense. Over the next several months, the War Beast Integration Corps took shape. Danny worked 18-hour days developing training protocols, studying Vrakthor behavior, and recruiting both humans and war beasts for the new program. Jenny became his second-in-command, handling logistics and cadet training. Marcus led the technical division, analyzing the psychic bonds and finding ways to strengthen them. Luke headed combat training, teaching new recruits how to fight as a pack. Humans from Earth volunteered in huge numbers. Not all of them were compatible with Vrakthor, but those who were formed bonds that amazed the other Coalition species. Within 6 months, the Corps had 80 human Vrakthor pairs, each one unique but all sharing that fundamental connection of pack loyalty. The real test came when a Korthan colony on the edge of Coalition space was attacked by the Ravagers, a hostile insectoid species that had been terrorizing border worlds for decades. The Ravagers used overwhelming numbers to crush defenders, often inflicting massive casualties before Coalition reinforcements could arrive. The colony's desperate call for help reached Sentinel Prime. Commander Velthas summoned Danny to his office. Officer Morrison, the Korthan colony at New Thrakos is under attack. 3,000 civilians are at risk. The nearest Coalition fleet is 4 days away. Your Corps is the only force that can reach them in time. Danny looked at the tactical display. How many Ravagers? Unknown. Estimates range from 5,000 to 10,000. They're swarming the colony's defenses. And you want me to take my people into that? Danny asked. Velthas met his gaze steadily. I'm not ordering you, Officer Morrison. This is your choice. But those colonists will die without help, and your Corps is their only chance. Danny thought about the Korthan species. They had questioned humanity's place in the Coalition. Their High Commander had tried to kill him and his friends. It would be easy to refuse, to let them handle their own problems. But through the bond, Danny felt Krasnor's certainty. The pack protected those who couldn't protect themselves, regardless of species or past conflicts. That was what it meant to be Pack Alpha. "We'll go," Danny said. "Get my people ready to deploy." 12 hours later, Danny stood on the bridge of a coalition transport ship with his corps. 80 humans and their Vrakthor pairs filled the cargo bay, checking weapons and preparing for battle. Jenny stood beside Danny, reviewing the tactical situation. "This is going to be brutal," she said quietly. "The Ravagers don't retreat, don't surrender. They fight until they're all dead or they've killed everything in their path." "Then we match their determination," Danny replied. "But we fight smarter. We fight as packs." When they arrived at New Thrakos, the situation was worse than reported. The colony's defensive walls had been breached in 3 places. Ravagers swarmed through the streets, their insectoid bodies covering buildings like a living carpet. Civilian screams echoed through the communication channels. Danny divided his corps into 8 packs of 10 human Vrakthor pairs each. "Remember your training. Stay coordinated. Watch each other's backs. We're not trying to kill every Ravager. We're buying time for the civilians to evacuate and for reinforcements to arrive." They dropped into the colony in armored transports, each pack hitting a different section. Danny's pack went straight for the largest breach in the defensive wall, where thousands of Ravagers were pushing through. The battle was chaos. Ravagers attacked in waves, their sharp claws and acidic spit making them deadly at close range. But the human Vrakthor pairs moved with practiced coordination. The war beast's armor protected them from most attacks, while the humans provided covering fire and tactical direction. They didn't fight as individuals. They fought as interconnected packs, each one supporting the others. Danny led from the front, Krasnor at his side. Through the bond, he coordinated not just his own pack but maintained awareness of the other 7 packs spread throughout the colony. When one pack got overwhelmed, nearby packs would shift to support them. When they found clusters of civilians, they would form protective perimeters and evacuate them to safety. The battle lasted 3 days. The Ravagers kept coming, wave after wave, seemingly endless. Danny's